Part 1 of The Song of Hugh Glass by John Neihardt. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Nathan at antipodeanwriter.wordpress.com. The Song of Hugh Glass by John Neihardt. Part 1. Greybeard and Gold Hair. The year was 1823. 'Twas when the guns that blustered at the Ree had ceased to brag, and 10 score martial clowns turned from the unwhipped Arikara towns, earning the scornful laughter of the Sioux. A withering blast the arid south still blew, and creeks ran thin beneath the glaring sky. For 'twas a month when honking geese would fly southward before the great white hunter's face, and many generations of their race, as bow-flung arrows now have fallen spent. It happened then that Major Henry went with 80 trappers up the dwindling Grand, bound through the weird unfriending barren land, for where the Bighorn meets the Yellowstone. And old Hugh Glass went with them, large of bone, deep-chested, that his great heart might have play, grey-bearded, grey of eye, and crowned with grey was Glass. It seemed he never had been young, and for the grudging habit of his tongue none knew the place or season of his birth. Slowly he woke to anger or to mirth, yet none laughed louder when the rare mood fell, and hate in him was like a still white hell, a thing of doom, not lightly reconciled. What memory he kept of wife or child was never told, for when his comrades sat about the evening fire, with pipe and chat exchanging talk of home and gentler days, old Hugh stared long upon the pictured blaze, and what he saw went upward in the smoke. But once, as with an inner lightning stroke, the veil was rent, and briefly men discerned what pent-up fires of selfless passion burned beneath the still grey smouldering of him. There was a Rakehill lad, called Little Jim, Jamie, or Petit Jacques, for scarce began the downy beard to mark him for a man. Blue-eyed was he, and femininely fair. A maiden might have coveted his hair, that trapped the sunlight in its tangled skein. So tardily outflowered the wild blonde strain that gutted Rome, grown over-fat in sloth. A Ganymedes haunted by a Goth was Jamie, when the restive ghost was laid. He seemed some fancy-ridden child who played at manliness mid all those bearded men. The sternest heart was drawn to Jamie then, but his one mood never linked 2 hours together to schedule Jamie's way, as prairie weather was to get fact by wedding doubt and whim. For very lightly slept that ghost in him. No cloudy brooding went before his wrath, that like a thunder-squall reeked not its path, but raged upon what happened in its way. Some called him brave who saw him on that day, when Ashley stormed a bluff town of the Ree, and all save beardless Jamie turned to flee for shelter from that steep lead-harrowed slope. Yet hardly courage, but blind rage agrope inspired the foolish deed. 'Twas then old Hugh tore off the grey mask, and the heart shone through, for halting in the dry flood-gutted draw, the trappers rallied, looked aloft, and saw that travesty of war against the sky. Out of a breathless hush the old man's cry leaped, shivering, an anguished cry and wild, as of some mother fearing for her child, and up the steep he went with mighty bounds. Long afterward the story went the rounds how old Glass fought that day, with gun for club. Grim as a grizzly fighting for a cub, he laid about him, cleared the way, and so, supported by the firing from below, brought Jamie back. And when the deed was done, taking the lad upon his knee, "My son, brave men are not ashamed to fear," said Hugh, "and I've a mind to make a man of you, so here's your first acquaintance with the law." Whereat he spanked the lad with vigorous paw, and having done so limped away to bed, for wounded in the hip the old man bled. It was a month before he hobbled out, and Jamie, like a fond son, hung about the old man's tent and waited upon him. And often would the deep grey eyes grow dim with gazing on the boy, and there would go, as though spring fire should waken out of snow, a wistful light across that mask of grey. And once Hugh smiled his enigmatic way, while poring long on Jamie's face, and said, "So with their sons are women brought to bed, sore wounded." Thus united were the two, and some would dub the old man Mother Hugh.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?